and the phone rang. My wife had been in an accident. Sorry, Mr. Blake, we did everything we could. I sat there, holding that phone, knowing that I would never see her again. I care about my people, and I don't take their deaths lightly, and I know you don't either. In a way, this fight, it's a failure of leadership.
Then leave us alone.
Wow, now that would be an even bigger failure. You've moved into our backyard, you've shot up Main Street. If I let that threat persist, I look weak, and well, the whole thing crumbles.
Well, that's your problem, your choice.
Now, isn't that why we're here?
Rick is sat, leaned back with his fists clenched here. He's also fidgeting with his hand. The clenched fist is due to the increased muscle tension likely triggered by the defense mechanism being activated. When our brain senses a threat, adrenaline is released into the bloodstream via the adrenal glands, which causes our muscles to tense up. This tension makes them stronger and more resistant to damage, thus improving his chances of survival should he be in a physical attack. This shows that he's afraid of the governor, as he's preparing to defend himself. He's also fidgeting as a way to distract himself from the stressor, which is called a pacifying behavior. When Rick says that's your problem, he does a distancing behavior. He looks away from the governor as he feels uncomfortable being confrontational with him. This does suggest that Rick is afraid of him to some extent. We distance from things when we are incredibly uncomfortable, as eye contact is seen as confrontational. Rick is basically blaming the governor here, which is an escalation. But his brain forces him to look away because he doesn't want to be seen as confrontational to him, because he fears a retaliation. He actually does it twice here, once to the left and then once straight down.
Choice. If we choose to destroy everything we've fought for over the past year, we're gonna kill everyone we know. At your prison, back in Woodbury. People we love, Rick.
When the governor mentions killing everyone at the prison, he does a subtle but noticeable mouth tense. This is again the defense mechanism. It happens so briefly, which classifies it as a microexpression. Basically because it happens so fast, as Rick briefly lets his guard down for the expression to occur. We can't suppress our natural body language 100%, and stuff will always seep through. Rick is trying to keep his calm face to not show weakness, but that tiny expression shows that he's filled with stress. Rick then distances and does a mouth tense after the governor finishes speaking. Like before, this shows high levels of stress but also caution from Rick. He's trying not to be confrontational, but deep down he's experiencing high levels of stress. The brain only deals with stress and no stress in terms of body language. We humans try to categorize different feelings as emotions, but when trying to be objective, it's nearly impossible to interpret specific emotions just from body language alone. Rick could be insanely angry at the governor here, or he could just be terrified, or he could be feeling shame because of what he did to the governor's people. All are very valid sources of stress that would explain his body language here.
I was at work one day, taking shit from a boss half my age and an IQ even lower. And the phone rang. My wife had been in an accident. Sorry, Mr. Blake, we did everything we could. I sat there, holding that phone, knowing that I would never see her again. Gone. It's just an accident, no one's fault. She'd left a voicemail asking me to call her, but I hadn't had a chance yet.
When talking about his wife, the governor does what's called the globus sensation. This is the tension of the muscles around the throat due to the stress that causes the extreme urge to swallow. It's often referred to as a lump in the throat. All this time, the governor hasn't exhibited any signs of stress, unlike Rick. He's very open and from what I can tell, doesn't feel threatened at all by Rick. This swallow he does shows extreme levels of stress, which comes from him recalling his wife's death. He is clearly very emotionally affected by it, which actually helps us understand his character a bit more. He's not emotionless, he's showing a very normal, very human response. Rick goes from making normal levels of eye contact with the governor to making none. He averts his gaze to the floor. I don't think this is distancing, I think this is just him thinking. And don't listen to the people who oversimplify body language by telling you that if they look one way, it must mean one thing. It's not really truthful, although there may be a general correlation. The truth is, humans can look in any direction when thinking and remembering. And that's what I think Rick is doing here. He's just thinking.
I sat there clutching that phone thinking, what did she want? Just to check in. Asked me to pick something up for dinner. What did she want?
Again, the governor gives off very normal human body language here. He smiles when thinking about his wife, before suppressing it when he remembers that she's gone. Rick's body language is quite interesting here. He starts doing rapid blinking, he tenses his mouth and his throat. These are all the effects of the high levels of stress, which I think is being caused by him thinking about his own wife, and what just happened to her, which is why you see these expressions here. The governor notices this. Overall, this short scene is perfectly acted. David Morrissey and Andrew Lincoln are two phenomenal actors, and they absolutely nailed this subtle but important body language here. They are able to convey strong emotions with very subtle changes in their body language. I think this skill is what separates good actors from the very best. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.